In 2020, after trading for almost 5 years and not really making any money, I felt completely stuck. I was working a job that I didn't enjoy, and I was still living with my parents, and so I decided enough was enough. It was time to make a change. So I decided to quit my job, move to the city about an hour away from my parents, and I had already declined my acceptance to university, and so I had no backup plan. In other words, I was going all in on trading. And so with just 12 months of living expenses saved up and still not having made a single dollar from trading, I only had one option: figure it out and make it work. This was probably the most stressful period in my life, only seeing money leave my bank account and not having a single dollar come in. But spoiler alert, in the end, it did work out. But along the way, I learned a ton of lessons that I wish I had learned earlier because it would have saved me a whole bunch of time and money. And it turns out I was actually wrong about a whole bunch of things. And so this is the video that I wish I had watched before I quit my job, and even before that, all of the years that I had the dream of becoming a full-time trader. And another plot twist, yeah, full-time trading isn't everything that it's made out to be. So if you're new here, a little backstory. My name is Matt, and I am the owner and CEO of Lark Funding. But long before I started the company, I quit my job, like I said, and for 2 years, I lived solely off of my trading income. But how did I get there? Let's back up. Going back to when I was 17 years old, I was in school, and of course, like most students, I hated it. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I was struggling, and I went to class, and one of my buddies had his laptop open. And of course, like everyone, he wasn't paying attention to what the teacher was saying, but he had CTrader open. At the time, I had no idea what CTrader was, but I knew a little bit about Forex. So I asked him what he was doing. He said he was trading Forex. I thought it was kind of a scam. So I straight out asked him, have you made any money? And he said, yes, I have turned $1,000 into $10,000. Now, $10,000 is a ton of money, but if we back up 5, 6, 7 years, at 17 years old, I was making $11 an hour, and $10,000 was a life-changing, unbelievable amount of money. So it's safe to say that from that very moment, I was completely hooked, and I quickly went down the rabbit hole of Forex trading. To be more specific, when I mean going down the rabbit hole, I probably did the same path that most traders did. I started off with baby pips because that is what my friend recommended. But after that, I took pretty much every single course from every single influencer that you can think of. I then took a course that was roughly, I think, $1,000 at the time by these guys, Atlas Forex. I think they were a scam. I don't think they're around anymore, but I still learned a few things. I then took a bunch of little courses that I can't even remember. I was pattern trading. I was watching Sean Lee do his crazy water fast. But eventually I took a course that not only was the most expensive investment of my life, costing over $5,000, but it was a course that I wanted to take for years. I live in Montreal, and there was a trader on Instagram known as Sam9Y. He's still around, but he sold a 3-day in-person course for $5,000 US. It was an insane, and still is an insane amount of money. But I managed to take the course, and it was life-changing. Not because of what I learned. Yes, I did learn some valuable things, but because it allowed me to scratch my own itch. Now, after the course, I did make a little bit of money, but then I struggled. And finally, a few years later, I took the last course that I had ever taken, which was the FX Cartel course, which essentially is the exact same thing that Sam9Y was teaching, but just in a different package. Now, between all of these courses, especially between the $5,000 course that I took and taking the FX Cartel course, I got absolutely obsessed with fundamental analysis. I still to this day, I'm very passionate about economics, how the market functions, and so I really tried to combine everything that I learned in these courses, the technical analysis, with the fundamental aspect, trying to figure out what's actually going on in the world, watching the news, geopolitics, all that good stuff, and trying to determine what is the market going to do over the next, month, 2 months, 3 months, year, so on and so forth. But really, even after taking all of these courses, spending over $10,000 on courses, trying to go deep into the rabbit hole of fundamental analysis, I still, after 4 or 5 years, wasn't making any money. Sure, I would have a good week, a good month, but then everything would kind of come crashing down, and I just couldn't find any consistency for the life of me. So eventually, I had a talk with myself where I said, listen, what I am doing is not working. Some form of change needs to take place if I'm going to make money as a trader. And unfortunately for me, that meant that I had to put my back up against the wall. I had to go all in. And so that is how we arrived to where we were in the intro of this video. It is 2020 and I decided to quit my job at 12 months worth of expenses in the bank. I moved out from my parents' place and there was no going back. I had to figure out how I could make this trading thing work. Okay, so it's now 2020. I am living on my own and I have 12 months worth of expenses saved up. It is day one of living on my own, and the question that I ask myself is, okay, how am I going to make this work? Every first of the month, I am spending money on rent. We need to have some kind of money coming in. To give some context, the only reason that I was actually able to take this plunge in the first place, if this is something that you're interested in doing, is because I had very low living expenses. Mind you, it was COVID, and so I wasn't going out, I wasn't going to restaurants, everything was closed here in Canada. It's a communist country, and so there really wasn't anything that we could do. So this is the first lesson. If you are in a similar situation, you need to keep your living expenses very low as possible. So for example, my rent at the time was $900 a month. If you add heating on top of it, it was $950, and so I needed to make sure that I had that every single month. In terms of food, I was spending roughly $250 on food every month. I was vegan at the time, so food was pretty cheap. 100% do not recommend you go a vegan, but at the time, I was. My phone bill was $50 a month. As for transportation, like I said, it was COVID. I moved to the city, so I was walking everywhere and I wasn't spending any money on transportation. So overall, roughly $1,300 to $1,500 a month is all I needed to cover my bills. Now, if you have more responsibility than that, if you are an adult, you likely don't have a burn rate as low as $1,500. But if you're a student, it could be even lower than that depending on where you are. It might be way lower than that. But that is the number one key that allowed me to quit my job to pursue full-time trading. It's because I wasn't going for the Lambos, I wasn't going for the Rolexes. All of the living expenses were super low. Okay, so now that we've established that, the next question that I asked myself was, okay, how am I going to make money? Now, when I first started in 2016, the only way to make money with Forex trading was to have your own personal trading account. But come 2020, I had started to learn about these things called funding companies, prop firms, evaluation firms, so on and so forth. And the one that I first learned about was, of course, as most people at the time, was FTMO. Now, for just over $500 I knew that I was going to be able to take an evaluation of $100,000. And if I passed, I was going to get to keep 80% of all of the profits that I made on that account. So for context, if I made 5% on that account in a month, well, that payout of just under $5,000 would have more than covered all of my living expenses, which was $1,500 Canadian. And so if I could make that money every single month, I was running all the way to the bank. So I now knew that this was the route that I needed to go. I needed to get profitable and I needed to pass one of these prop firm challenges. But I knew that if I was going to invest half a month's worth of rent into one of these challenges, I needed to be ready. And for me, I get asked the question all the time, how do you know when you are ready? The answer is simple. I only took an evaluation once I was consistently profitable every single week. Now, that doesn't mean that there were weeks that were negative, but once I was feeling and creating a lot of momentum, when I was profitable, 3 weeks in a row, 4 weeks in a row, I knew it was time to take a challenge. And so within a month or two of living on my own, I found that consistency and I signed up for a challenge and I took it. Now, I'm very happy to say that I passed the very first 100K challenge that I ever took. And I even went on to take 3 more evaluations and I passed every single one and got funded with $400,000. If you're wondering how I did that, it's no secret. No, I'm not some great trader. I always say I'm like a 4 out of 10. There's tons of videos on this channel where I break down the strategy that I used. But really the number one lever that I pulled was focusing on only A+ setups because I knew I didn't want to lose that $500 deposit, but I digress. So I passed the evaluation and yes, it felt like a life-changing moment. I even went on to receive my first payout of roughly $6,000 a month later. Now, I don't want to make it sound easy. As I'm saying this, I'm making it sound quick and I'm making it sound easy, but it was anything but that. It took roughly 3 to 4 months of moving out and only burning money and not having a single dollar come in before I received that first payout. The first payout was roughly $6,000. The second payout was roughly $9,000. The third payout was much lower, $2,000 or $3,000. And then I think there was a couple of months where I didn't receive a payout. Which brings us to one of the main lessons that I learned trading full-time for 2 years is that trading is so inconsistent and not knowing when your next paycheck is coming in is incredibly stressful. And speaking of stressful, this is where we're getting to the main part of the video where I want to talk about what I wish I had done differently. If I could go all the way back to 20-year-old Matt who wanted to be a full-time trader, who wanted to quit his job, this is everything that I would tell him. The most major lesson and takeaway that I learned from trading full-time for 2 years is, like I said, trading is incredibly inconsistent. Not knowing when or where your next paycheck is coming from puts a lot of stress on you, not only in your personal life, but it's also going to make you a much worse trader because you're not going to have the freedom to take only those A+ setups. If you need to pay rent, you need to pay rent, you need to make money, and that's going to force you to take trades in the market that don't necessarily fit your trading plan or aren't A+ setups. And so I wish I could go back to 20-year-old Matt and tell him that, for all of those years of struggle, you could have been doing something on the side. For me, if I'm spending more than 30 minutes on the charts, I'm doing something wrong. And so rather than staring at the charts every single day, I wish I had used all of the free time that trading provides to create a business, to maybe pursue or monetize a hobby that I already had. Just having some form of income on the side apart from trading is absolutely a game changer. And so if you're looking to pursue full-time trading, that would be my number one takeaway and tip from this video. And lastly, bringing all of this together, I think the main takeaway is that for years, ever since I was 16, 17 years old, I always thought that full-time trading was the goal, but it turns out I was wrong. Full-time trading is not the goal. Really, trading is only a stepping stone to a larger goal. Trading provides incredible freedom. There's no cap on the money that you can make. But because it doesn't take that much time, because it's so inconsistent, because it's so difficult, it's not the end goal. It's what has allowed me to pursue other things, other businesses, other goals in my life. And for me, I wish that my 16, 17-year-old self could have understood that because I would have gone about things much differently. And so those are the lessons and the things that I wish I knew before I pursued full-time trading. If you made it this far, I appreciate it. Check out this video here, which hopefully will help you get one step closer to achieving your trading goals. We'll see you in the next one. Until then, peace.